Okay, so for my lesson today, we are going to prepare the parable of the lost sheep. Students in my class right now, we are going to be prepping for the Sacrament of Reconciliation. So I'm making a whole unit out of this. My objective and assessment have already been written down from the unit cover page. So I have this thought out while I was planning my whole unit as a whole. So this keeps the flow of the lessons going and you're able to see how one transits to another. So as you can see, my parable lesson is in the extending and refining part of the unit, and it is lesson plan 5. So my first thing that I normally do when I am planning for a lesson is that I go to my standards. So I Google Archdiocese of Chicago religion standards, and these come up. So I normally just look at the learning outcome and I see which ones are most appropriate for this lesson and this unit also. I then go back to my lesson plan or my unit cover page and I write them in. So here I have my whole unit, and this is my lesson plan. So my first thing I think about is my objective, where the students will be able to describe God's love and forgiveness. Now this is quite broad at the moment, but I like to keep it quite broad until I finish the exact lesson, and then I can go back and I can refine it. The same with the assessment. I normally keep the assessment quite broad at the beginning so that at the end I can really see what I need to assess in completing the whole lesson. So as I plan it, I can be able to see what exactly needs to be assessed. So I just keep it quite broad at the beginning. My notes I also come back to at the end so that I know exactly what materials that I will need for this lesson. So I start out and I know that I'm going to do this lesson for 2 days. So I write day 1 up first. And I normally make that bold because this helps me to see it. When I'm thinking about the start of my lesson, I think about my students, and I know that they need to activate their prior knowledge first, and I need to get their attention and their engagement. So I know that we've just done a traditional test based on this unit, and so I want to make sure that they remember exactly what we have been studying. So the student learning task or activity is going to be activating prior knowledge. So as I said, I like to think about my students and what works for them to get their attention. So I am going to do a think, pair, share, which is always something nice to start with because it allows them to have a little chat with their buddies. So in this think, pair, share, the teacher will question or teacher will give the students a question or a prompt. So this is going to be what were the 10 commandments? But more importantly, why do you think that God gave us the commandments? So this is just something short and sweet to activate their attention and also to activate their prior knowledge, which we have done in previous lessons. So after this, for 3 minutes, we do a whole, I think I want to do a whole class discussion about what they have talked about. So their task or activity is to discuss the prompt or the question. So this is going to be a whole class, and the teacher should lead it. Teacher leads, asking different pairs what they spoke about. Having talked about the question or the prompt, the teacher should then challenge the students to think about why we have rules at home and at school. So this might be because so the teacher wants the students to eventually come to the conclusion that we have this at school because parents and teachers want us to be safe. So these little brackets here are good because you know the conclusion that you want the students to reach. So that's why I put them in there. We'll also discuss what happens when we break a rule. So we may get in trouble, but we are always forgiven. So this is a good start to my lesson. So for 2 minutes, students will then going to listen to the teacher. Teacher introduces parables to students. So hopefully in first grade they will have already done parables. So the teacher can just describe what a parable is, and she can talk about why Jesus told parables. So to teach people about God. So the teacher then says that this is a parable or story that Jesus told followers. So then after this, so it's been 10 minutes and we've already had 2 class discussions. So now we are going to actually read the parable. So what I think we're going to do here is we are going to do a reader's theater, because most of the time in language arts and reading, it's very much so whole class reading or popcorn reading, or even just reading to self. So I'm going to switch it up and I want to make a reader's theater, because I know that this will engage all the students because they love to have a part in it. So the teacher assigns parts. So this can be even 3 to 5 parts. And the parable is quite short, so we can do this a couple of times. Teacher assigns parts for the reading of the parable. Students read their parts. Teacher should encourage other students to listen carefully. And then parts can then be swapped to enable students to have a turn for this. Alright, so then after this, we will do a small group for 5 minutes, just to switch it up again. We will discuss why Jesus may have told this story. So eventually I want them to come to the conclusion that so that Jesus loves us. I think that's the main thing that we need to say. Jesus loves us, and also he will forgive us. Even though we might go off astray sometimes, Jesus will always forgive us. And lastly, I will do an assessment for, let's say, for 7 minutes. So just to switch it up a bit, instead of an exit card, I'm going to have the students put the story in correct order and glue it on to a construction paper. And that can be my day 1. Day 2, for 8 minutes, I'm going to do think, pair, share again. And I will have them take out their stories and tell their partner. Instead of writing the prompt on the board, I think I'm going to put a picture of a sheep. to engage the students. So having talked to their partner, the teacher should lead a discussion based on what we talked about. Teacher should then write important words on the board. And we can look at the board then and see what was the most important thing about this parable. And again, we'll revert it back to, why did Jesus tell us or tell his followers this? So after this, we'll talk about it. I might actually extend this to 12 minutes, just because this is the bulk of my lesson. So not only is it the introduction, but it's also going to be the bulk of my lesson. So teaching them why Jesus told his followers this. After this, make this 15. I want to give them their assessment. So I'm also going to do this for 15. I'm going to say 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to have blank sheet books, so where they flip up. This is a visual aid and also a flip book for them. And what I want them to do is I want students to fill in these sheet books, writing or summarizing the points of the parable. And then on the inside, or on the top and the inside, write what this parable taught us. So after planning this lesson, I can go back up to my notes and I can write in what I need. So this would be, I need the readers, theater scripts, I need a picture of a sheep, I need the blank sheep flip